Thank you so much for the great introduction, and thanks to all the awesome team of Mind Valley. I'm so excited to share this concept that has helped me a lot over the last 10 years. It's called Practical Generosity Quotient. So last 5 years, I've been teaching first-time entrepreneurs how to build businesses. And I found that many of my students, some of my students get a lot of help on one end of the spectrum. Some of my students get no help. They are on the other end of the spectrum. But most of them, it does not fall on like a bell curve, but it falls to the side where they don't get a lot of help. So I just kept thinking, why is that only a small number of people get a lot of help? Why can't other people who are not getting the help can also get that help? Because startup or any significant project that you undertake, you require a lot of help. It's a team sport. If you are climbing a hill at the back of your home, then you can do it alone. You can go for a stroll, you can go for a hike. But if you are climbing Mount Everest, you can't do it solo. You need team sport. It's a team sport. Yeah. What is the one characteristic that will differentiate those that get a lot of help in their journey, in their startup, in their adventure, in their project? And that for me was Practical Generosity Quotient. So let's start. So everybody that is undertaking a big enough project, they need certain level of competence. Like this is a curated tribe, right? So all of you pass that test. You are all super smart people. So there is no question about it. Then comes Daniel Goleman, who says you need emotional quotient. You need to work well with people. That again is not a problem. But both of these are table stakes. That's an entry ticket to the game. So you can't play the game and win just with this intelligence quotient and emotional quotient. And what is missing is the practical generosity quotient. First, let me tell you what PGQ is not. So it's not philanthropy. It's not a giving for a cause. If it is not philanthropy, then what PGQ? Let's think about it. For any of your projects, be it a startup, be it some sort of an adventure, if you have an oversupply of good help, then the odds of succeeding becomes very high. How can you have an oversupply of good help? That's where we are getting. Practical generosity is a gift of capacity that you all can give to other people. And Awesomeness Fest, this kind of a get-together is a great way to practice it. As you will see, you will notice that. So PGQ, first we will get over with the definition, right? It is the capacity you added to the capacity that was needed to move the needle in a significant fashion. So what does that mean? If the capacity needed was 100 and you added 50% of that capacity, then your PGQ is 50%. There is a lot of help. It looks like you are giving help. You are pretending to give help. When you really give help, it will make a big difference. For example, I've written 14 books. My first book was published when I was 13 years old, so I've been writing for a very long time. In fact, I don't publish everything I write because then people will think this guy is jobless, he just keeps writing. Right? So I write every single day. Right? So if somebody comes and asks me, Raj, you have written 14 books and I'm planning to write a book, can you help me get started? And I say, like an intelligent man, I say, you know how I got started? I went to Amazon and then I searched for how to write a book. And I ordered it by the best rated books. And then I read 3 of them. I think you should do that. And that looks like help. That is useless help. Like good for nothing, right? So the PGQ there will be like 1 out of 100. My PGQ at that time will be 1 out of 100, like PGQ of 1. But in contrast, if I say, let me tell you what works, what does not work, what are all the mistakes that I did, and let me give you a proposal template, a book proposal template that is about 30 pages that has helped me a lot in reflecting what I want to write, how I want to write it, what is the competition, what is the chapter structure. And once you fill that out, let me introduce you to my book agent, graphic designers, copy editors, line editors, my whole network. And now I am talking about a PGQ of 60 or 70. So there is a difference between pretending to help and actually helping. And how do you know? Because it's not quantitative. There is no measure, right? There is a measure. And I call it the PGQ test. It's like a litmus test. If you truly add significant value to someone, they will start missing you in their past. Now, how can somebody miss anybody in the past, right? Because they just met you. So the way I'll ask a question, do you all remember, you all went through your schooling. If I ask you, do you remember all the teachers that taught you? Most of the time your answer will be no. But if we ask, do you remember some of the teachers? Most of you will say yes. Of that some of the teachers, half of them will be, you remember them because they were very, very bad. So, right? The other half is what I am looking for. Those are the people who shaped you to become who you are. Like, they shaped your thinking, they shaped your worldview, they shaped everything. They changed the way you thought about something, thought about your life, thought about your relationships. Those are the magic people that you wish. I wish I met that teacher. I wish I met that mentor 10 years ago. My life would have been even better. That's the Pzq test. If you truly significantly add value, then people will start missing you in the past. Now, there is also an event like this, 3-4 days. You're always thinking, how can I add so much value that somebody would miss in the past? It's only 4 days. That's because in our mind, there is a limitation that we think it takes a lot of time to add significant value. If you, for 1 second, think about what if the measure depends on a conversation. One conversation I have, if I can I add so much value that by the end of that conversation, somebody will miss me in the past. And I've had 3 such conversations right at this event. That shows the kind of people that are in this crowd. So if you can make up your mind and say, you know, I'm going to have such amazing conversations that by the end of it, they will miss me in the past. Can we all promise ourselves to do that? Excellent. Now, the rest of the rest of my talk will be about how to boost your Pgq. You have to start with your strengths, because if you are not good at negotiating, you can't start adding value in the area of negotiation for someone. Like it'll be a competitive disadvantage for the other person, right? So you start with your strength. The rhetorical question is, should you work on your strengths? So yes, because that's the rhetorical question, right? But how can you identify your strengths is a really tough problem for very smart people. Why is it really difficult to identify your strengths? Because your core strengths, those where you are really, really, really good at, they are invisible to you because they become your second nature. So you just do them so well, you will think that this is so easy, everybody should be as good as this, but somebody else can see it. I have 7 ways that you can identify your strengths. I'll go over them very quickly. The first one is journals. For those of, how many of you write journals? A lot of you write journals, and you might write 1 page, 2 page, but you spend the whole day, it's 24 hours, and you write only 1 page. That shows that you are not writing your journal verbatim. Like, I got up in the morning, I went for a walk. You look at it, and then you will notice that you only put highlights, what matters most to you. So if you go back and look at your journals, it will provide an amazing clue to what your strengths might be. For those of you who are not writing journals, look at your notes. Like in these 4 days, you will take a lot of notes. And then again, you are not taking it verbatim because people are spending hours here on the stage. So you are just taking the highlights of what works, what does not work, what resonated with you and everything, right? And the next is with your mentors. Mentors are very special because they have no other agenda but to make you a better version of you. That means what is invisible to you is visible to them, and they're intentionally watching what you are good at. So if you don't have a mentor, get 3 of them. If you get one, ask them whether there's a buy one, get one free option and get them, right? And then the asking competent people who care. It's very important. There are 2 aspects to it. You have to ask competent people and you have to ask those that care. So many times people fall in the trap of asking people who care. Like for example, if they are trying to become an artist, they'll make a big painting and go to their mom and say, "Mom, how is this painting looking like?" Mom will say, "It's very good." Unless the mom is an international artist, right? So it may not make sense. So don't get into the trap of asking people, and also the way they ask questions, that makes a big difference. You created an app, and then you go to your friend and say, I created this app and I showed it to 10 people. All of them say it's awesome. What do you think? What do you think he will say? Awesome. right? You set yourself up for not receiving real feedback. So you have to ask people who are competent and those who care. Noticing when you are in the flow. Flow is a really awesome book by Mihaly. And in the short term, in a one sentence, if I say, flow is where you lose track of mind when you are doing something important. Like when I was sharing this in the last conference, they said, one of them came back and said, the last time I remember I lost track of my mind was when I was watching Titanic. That's not what I am taking and talking about, right? I mean, half the movie, Titanic, the ship is sinking and you lose track of your mind saying, oh my, the ship, will it, maybe in this version the ship will not sink. So if I have the time, I'll tell you why. I'm a storyteller, right? I'll tell you why somebody can watch 1.5 hours of ship sinking and still be glued to their seat. But that's not the point of it. But when you are in the flow, right, you will notice that you are typically working on your strengths. So that's a clue there. And noticing what you notice and noticing what you don't notice. Now this looks like a puzzle, right? How can you notice what you don't notice? You just didn't notice it. So how can you notice that? Think about it. You are all here with friends. Many of you are taking notes. Is there a possibility, is there even a slim chance that all of you are taking exactly the same notes? Impossible, right? At the end of any talk, you exchange your notes. You will notice what you didn't notice, but somebody else noticed and found that it's very important. This is a key skill to learn because you will definitely not notice everything. Somebody else is noticing something and they found it so important they took down in their notebook. If you forget all these 6, if you go to the 7th one and remember just this one, it will make a big difference. It is noticing requests that are made off of you for help. I told you about being a bad negotiator. If you are a bad negotiator, somebody will not come and say, I am buying a car, can you come and help me negotiate this? They will be at a competitive disadvantage. They will come to you if you are a good negotiator. And how do you do it? So there are technologies out, like your mailing system, the Gmail or Outlook. You go back and set the date to last month. Like for example, today, this is November, you go back to October. In the last 30 days, look for all the emails that came to you and search for help. Can you help me with this? And then look at what are they asking you for help. And then start writing down those keywords. And you will notice that some of your strengths, where you took them for granted, it will be exposed in a big way because they will know your strengths and that's why they are asking you for help in those areas of strengths. Then the next step is to understand the network dynamics. All of us have a network and network behaves in certain fashion. The next slide will show that I'm an engineer. I love graphs, pyramids, charts, bars, everything, right? So in your network, there are 4 kinds of people. At the bottom of the pyramid are what are called free riders. What are free riders? Free riders are black holes of your network. Like if there is light, they will suck it up. And if you give something, they will bring it. They are like if you have seen the movie Short Circuit, when it reads a book and say input, it's like this. If you give them, they will say more, right? If you are going with your spouse, they will say, you gave me something, but your spouse has not given me anything yet. So give me some more. So you cannot avoid them. They are part of your network. They are going to be there. They're just there. The next is not ready people. That means they are very happy to take what you give them, but when you want something back from them, they suddenly get a headache, or they have to pick up somebody from the airport, or they suddenly have an emergency of their own. And although they are on the higher level of the pyramid, they are actually really complicated people to deal with because if free riders are sleeping, not ready people are what? Pretending to sleep. You can never wake them up, right? So not all is bad. It seems like I'm going on the pessimistic route, but the good part starts here, ready people. These are people who are always willing and ready to help you. So they are there when you ask for help, they are just a phone call away. They are just not proactive. They don't think for you. But if you ask them, they are there, oh, thank God you asked me, and they will drop what they were doing and they will come and help you. The last one is pure gold, evangelists. They are there. You be careful with evangelists. There is a negative aspect for evangelists. Don't share your like your annual goals with them. Like for example, if you say, I want to write 3 books, on January end, they will get a call from them and say, oh, where is the first chapter of the first book? And they will become your sort of your mom. And they will say, if I have not done it, and how come you have not done it? What are you doing? What is so important that you told me that you will finish this book? You should have the proposal ready. I mean, it takes a lot of time to publish. And they will go on and on and on. What is important to notice is that what matters most to you becomes important for them. They care for what you care. They are special people. There are only a small number of them. Cherish them with everything because they are pure gold. So now it is very easy, and you might also be tempted to look at the whole network and start labeling people. Like, okay, that's a free rider. I know. He may be a not ready person, but no, I think he's a free rider. So it's just a fun game. It becomes a fun game to say, that's a ready person. No, I think he's on the borderline, not ready. Or no, he might be a free rider. Yeah, last time he didn't come and help me. So it becomes like a game. But really, the top 2 levels, how many people you have in the top 2 levels of your pyramid will determine how much capacity you have to take meaningful action. But how do you influence it? It's not by just starting to label people. It's by asking a really important soul-searching question, and that is, for how many people you are an evangelist, you are on the top level of their network pyramid. Now it comes the real question. Now you face the reality, because only by being on the top of the network pyramid for many, many people, you can influence how many people are in the top 2 levels of your network pyramid. Does it make sense? The next is to organize yourself to receive high quality help requests in the area of strengths, because your strengths are not absolute. None of us are Superman or Superwoman. So you have to keep building the strengths. For that to happen, you have to learn something, how to tell no. Because, why? Because if you say no to wrong requests, you will have more time to say yes to the right request. And there is a simple process. How many people want to learn how to say no? The other people are very comfortable. So just make a note of all the people who didn't raise their hands. Ask them anything and everything. Ask for money, ask for their laptop, ask for everything, because this is our chance. This is the bonus part of Awesomeness Fest, right? So for those of you who need to know how to learn no, I didn't learn it. This is not made up by me. It's from a Harvard professor. I don't remember his name, but I love the whole concept. And it has 5 steps, and you have to follow this 5 steps to the T. It's very important that you follow them. I'll go through the steps very quickly with an example. So I say, first is to repeat the request. And I'll use an example. I'm an Indian. Somebody will come and say, hey, can you teach me how to cook Indian food? And I will say, you want me to teach how to cook Indian food? I'm repeating the request. And the next one is very important. You have to follow this. This is a very complicated word, and the word is no. So it's very important you say it exactly. And it should not come like you are practicing it while you are doing it. It's like, it should not say, you want me to teach how to cook Indian food? Step number 2, no. It should not look like that. You have to say, you want me to teach how to cook Indian food? No. It should flow like that, right? And then you have to state a reason, and it's made a good reason. In my case, I can say I suck at it, right? And it has to flow again. You want me to teach how to cook Indian food? No, because I suck at it, right? And then provide an alternative, right, if possible. So I can look at here and say, Avi is there. But my friend Avi, he might be able to help you if you can make it good for him. So, right? So I say, you want me to teach how to cook Indian food? No, because I suck at it, but my friend Avi is here. He might be willing to help you there. And last part is really, really important. This is where you teach what is a good request for you. It is a guidance on what could be a better request. So I can say, but if you ever want to write a book, I'm happy to share how to go about doing one. Whatever be the question, they might be asking, can you walk my dog? Anything, but you have to bring back to the place where you have your strengths. You can say, I'll go over the sequence. You want me to teach how to cook Indian food? No, because I suck at it. Avi here might be able to help. But if you ever want to write a book, I would love to help you through the process. Does it make sense? And remember that. Thank you. Just remember that there are a lot of people who didn't raise their hands. Their laptops, their valuables, their notebooks, everything is up for grabs because they don't know how to say no. So high stakes requests in the area of strengths, they have many advantages. First one is it will strengthen your strengths. Very important to keep remembering that they may be your strengths, but they are not absolute. There are new things that you can learn, you can become better at it. Second, it costs you less to fulfill them because why? Because they are in the area of your strengths. It costs less to you. The value is there for them. It's the best of both worlds. If you can find your strengths and keep giving gifts in the area of your strengths, for them they are super valuable. For you, it costs next to nothing. It will provide high value to both parties. I talked about it. It will amplify your personal brand. If you keep doing, it might look like a broken record, but if you keep doing the exact same thing again and again, people will say, he is really good at that, right? That will amplify your personal brand. And it brings a sense of fulfillment because you are actually moving the needle, right? And lastly, this is the fastest way to boost your PGQ, is work on your strengths, make sure that the requests are coming in the area of your strengths, and you know how to say no to the requests that are not in the area of strengths, and you are always guiding people what is the right request for you. And how do you know you can move the needle? It's by listening to the people. And it's not an easy skill. Everybody knows how to listen, but very few people know how to listen very powerfully. Like I'll go over what happens when you are listening. It's an acronym called JOIN. The first one is judging and justifying. Like as soon as you start talking, the other person is judging and does he really know this topic? I don't know. So, and then if they start justifying their own assessment of you. Like I think I'm right because his English was not that great. They will start making up their own thing because either they are judging and then they are justifying their judging. And then opportunity for them, right? So they are thinking, if the speaker is speaking on these kinds of topics, or if my colleague or if my newfound acquaintance is speaking on this topic, what could be an opportunity for them? Is there an insight? Is there a resource? Is there a connection? Is there a network that I can lend? So you are all thinking about what's an opportunity for them. And because mutuality is good, you also are thinking what is an incentive for you. So you mentioned this. That may be an interesting. Let me ask him more questions about that resource that he mentioned. And lastly, you are physically here, mentally you are off. This is where you wander off and then you stop listening. And hopefully you are not doing that now. But that's where the neutral comes, join. So, and how do you know the way, if you map it into a spectrum, again the engineer in me comes back here in the next slide. If you map it into a spectrum, you will know how much of what you are doing on this. Like for example, the choice is yours. If at the end of a conversation, if you reflect back and think, how much of that conversation was I judging and justifying? How much of the conversation I was focusing on opportunity for them? How much I was focusing on an incentive for me? How much of the conversation did I just slack off, right? So if you think about it in here, you are spending very little on the opportunity for them, and you are focusing on the incentive for you, and you are justifying and judging most of the time, and a little bit of wandering off. Now compare this to a spectrum like this, where you focus very little on judging, very little on incentive for you, very little on wandering off, but most of the time you are thinking about how to care for what the other person is caring about. Which of this is a powerful way to listen? You make the choice is yours. Because the more you are on the second side of the spectrum, the more you will be better off and you will be someone that the other person wants to build a relationship with. Does it make sense? So just like PGQ, LQ is the percentage of time you focused on opportunity for them, not for you. Opportunity for them compared to the total conversation time. If you spoke with them for 100 minutes, and if you focused on 40 minutes on the opportunity for them, your LQ is 40. The higher the LQ, more you will know what the other person cares about. right? So if you are overtaking the conversation and dominating the conversation and speaking all the time, how will you know how to add value? Because you don't know what the other person cares about. Lastly, we have to put all of them together. So you need the first two things. You need the certain level of competence, intelligence quotient, certain level of emotional quotient. That means you need to know how to work well together. You need to have very high listening quotient. That means you are focusing most of the time on an opportunity for them. And you need to have a Pgq very high, which is you are actually moving the needle, not pretending to move the needle, but actually moving the needle. If you have all these things, what will you get? I call what is called as the gratitude quotient, which I'll talk tomorrow a little bit. It is where somebody will feel so compelled and say, how can I help you back? And it's like a bank balance that you have. Most of them, many times people will say it, but they don't mean it. But if you keep doing it for a lot of people, even a small percentage of them will want to reciprocate. That is way more than the capacity that you have, that most people have. This is how you get an oversupply of good help. By providing a source of an oversupply of good help for other people, way before you need that oversupply of good help for your own reason. If you think about it, your power, in philosophical terms, its capacity to take meaningful action, is directly proportional to the obligations that you set with even more powerful people. And how do you do it? You do it with having a high Pgq and having a high LQ, where you know what they care about and how you move the needle for them. There is an African proverb that I'm sure you have heard of, and it makes a big difference. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. This is a great tribe that there are a lot of people that you will meet, that you can take them along for the journey, or you can join them in their journey. Together, we all can go far together. Thank you so much.